So we've seen that you can start a meeting at any time, but probably in most cases, you'll want to schedule a meeting so all of your participants will have time to make sure they can attend. We touched on scheduling earlier, but let's take a closer look at it now. If you're logged into your account at the Zoom website, you can go to My Meetings, and here just click Schedule a New Meeting to create a new meeting. Alternately, you can go to the Zoom desktop app, and here go to Meetings, and click the plus button to schedule a new meeting. First, name your meeting. It's a good idea to name it something that tells your participants what it's about. Next, specify the date and time of the meeting. If this is going to be a recurring meeting, you can click that option. And that removes the specific date and time fields, and it displays a reminder to set up the recurrence of the meeting in the calendar invite after it's generated. I'll just uncheck that. And let's schedule this for May 3rd at 1 p.m. And it'll run for half an hour. Next, you can choose the default video settings. If this is going to be a video meeting, I'll turn on video for both the host and the participants. As we've seen, individuals can always turn their cameras on and off themselves during the meeting, too. Next, you'll choose how the audio in the meeting is going to be handled. Telephone and computer audio is probably the best choice. Most participants in the meeting will most likely be listening and talking through their computer speakers and microphone, but it's nice to have the telephone option available for anyone who may not have a microphone or speaker to listen through. With the telephone option enabled, you can edit the locations your participants may be calling from. Selecting other countries or regions here will list the dial-in numbers for those places in the invite you're going to send out. Under Options, you can require a password to enter the meeting if you like. I'll toggle open Advanced Options. And here you'll find other useful settings. For example, Enable Join Before Host will allow participants to enter the meeting room before the host gets there, and they'll be able to see and talk to each other. You may want to enable that so people can chat to each other or prep before the meeting starts. You can also set everyone's mic to be muted by default, which can cut down on background noise, especially if you have a lot of attendees. Each person can unmute their own mics when they want to speak. Next is the option to use your personal meeting ID. This is the permanent meeting ID associated with your account. Now, the issue with using this is that since the ID never changes, anyone with the ID could enter that room at any time. So if you're having an entirely different meeting with different people a week later using your personal meeting ID, someone from a previous meeting in that same room could enter unless you have a password protected with a different password. In my opinion, it's better to let Zoom generate a new meeting ID for each meeting. And below that, we have the option to start recording the meeting right away so you don't have to manually start the recording. There's also an option here to set up alternative hosts who can lead the meeting with you. We'll talk about setting up co-hosts a little bit later. And below that, you can choose which calendar type you'd like to add this meeting to or send the invite from. We have Apple iCal, Google Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, and other calendars. For this example, I'm going to choose Outlook. And now I've set up the meeting parameters. I'll click Schedule. And you can see that pops me into Outlook, and here I can see the calendar event that's been created. Here's the meeting room location. You can see the start date and time. And here's all the info about the meeting that everyone will see when I send this invite out. Notice we have numbers for New York, the US, and 2 numbers here in Japan. So here in Outlook, I would now click Invite and add the people I want to invite to this meeting. I'm just going to close this for now, though. And let's go back to Zoom. So I now see this meeting listed here. If necessary, I can click Edit to edit the details. For example, if I needed to change the date or time, maybe to 2 p.m., I could do that. Now let me also show you what happens if you choose other calendars. And I'll click Save. So instead of popping open a calendar app, I see the same info that we saw in Outlook. And here I can click Open, which would open up the event in my computer's default calendar, in this case, Apple iCal. I'm just going to cancel that. But that would add that to my calendar. But back here, I can also click Copy Invitation, which copies all of the text here, and then I can paste it into my calendar app or into an email to send out to my participants. I'll go ahead and close that. Now you can also click Copy Invitation from here at any time, and also Show Meeting Info to see that information. But basically, once you've set up the meeting, you'll find it here under Meetings in the Zoom app or under the My Meetings section of the Zoom website. And when the time comes to start the meeting, or really at any other time for that matter, you can select it and then click the Start button to jump into your meeting.